For the last couple of days, a news story from Florida about a squirrel getting into an old folks' home and jumping around from lap to lap and biting the residents has been posted and reposted and reposted and reposted. And I don't see any wildlife rehabilitators or other advocates fixing this. So triggered. Squirrel! So anyway, here we go. The squirrel was probably being taken care of by a human being. It was probably an only squirrel instead of being raised around other squirrels so it can learn how to interact with squirrels. And they probably tried to keep it as a pet instead of letting someone else evaluate it to determine, no, you now need to wild it up and get it slow released into the environment so that it won't have any problems. And then what happens? Well, eventually, at 6 months of age, this is probably a spring baby. At 6 months of age, the squirrel will become agitated and be in the point where it starts becoming mature physically in every way. And it'll start wanting to wrestle its brothers and sisters for dominance, or fight for territory, or chase some other squirrel out of a nest, jockeying for position in preparation for winter. But unless, this is the nature versus nurture thing, unless it's raised around other squirrels, it won't learn manners, or proper manners anyway, for squirrels. And if it's raised around humans, if it has a human constantly fawning over it and petting it and treating it sweet, that will not make it non-wild. It will still become a wild animal. But now it's a wild animal that thinks humans are required to pet it and ooh and ah and love it and snuggle it and feed it. So what happens is, when the person who doesn't know these things, because they don't look this up, even though it's listed on every web board explaining how to take care of any wild animal, instead of looking that up and finding out this is going to happen, they get surprised one day when it starts biting them or biting their kid. And they take it out and they throw it out in the backyard and refuse to deal with it. Well, now it's gone from having someone literally taking care of it 24/7 for a couple of months, and then every day for another couple of months, and always treating it sweet and acting like a combination of a parent and a sibling and also a tree, depending on whether or not you're wearing the right kind of clothing so you can get away with that, to being rejected utterly by basically the only mother or parent it's ever known. Sort of like taking a kid at the age of 13, this is the equivalent, and throwing it in the street and saying, fend for yourself. That's a really good way to create a criminal. I would do a smooth criminal squirrel joke now, but you've already done it in your head. So anyway, the squirrel wasn't apparently captured, because squirrels are hard to catch, and it is still in the area. Now, here are the things that people keep talking about in the news, and you're going to hear me maybe cuss. It's not rabies. Dear mainstream media, unless you are a medical expert and not one that's popular on TV, like several dozen hucksters out there, unless you're a medical doctor, you don't have the wherewithal to even spell the word rabies most of the time. Shut up. Squirrels' nervous systems run at a very, very different clock rate than you and me. They die from rabies before they're able to really carry it to anybody. They basically crawl into their nest and die. They don't act, quote, rabid. You might be seeing parvo, but basically what happens if you have a squirrel that's dying from something is it acts like it's dying from something. It doesn't go crazy and bite you. Also, I'd like to point out that head injuries, ordinary minor injuries, and just having a poor diet will make a squirrel act extremely lethargic and sick. And of course, everyone does this. And this is a major pet peeve. They talk about, oh, we should put it out of its misery. Or you could just look up what's causing it and help the damn thing by doing something simple like putting out something calcium rich for it to eat, like, I don't know, green leafy vegetables that it's missing. This happens all the time if they're existing in an area that has, for some reason, a reduction in available food supply. They start getting metabolic bone disorder, or they start having neurological issues, and they literally act like most people think is rabies. There are several varieties of animal in the squirrel family that can carry plague, and some of them do actually have the ability to contract and carry rabies if they weigh more than 15 pounds. I mean, really giant freaking, marmots, beavers can carry rabies technically, I guess. But Squirrels literally just die too quickly from it. So it's not rabies. It's also not lupus. But anyway, let's just get on to the next meme. How do you help them? Stop putting out peanuts. No, I'm not kidding. Stop feeding animals in your area at all. Or if you're going to feed them what works. You can spend the same amount of money, actually much less, and feed them something that won't make them sick. And it will actually make them sick. And if they're sick, then they can carry other diseases that are definitely dangerous. So when in doubt, stop being in doubt, look up stuff. No, you don't know what you're doing, you're not intuitive, and good old-fashioned whatever doesn't work because you're ignorant. I'm going to leave a bunch of links below, and if you don't read every single one of them, you won't get it. Because you have to read dozens and dozens of websites listing information from independent sources to pound it into your head that you've been wrong all your life about something you made an assumption about, or you were told, and you don't want to question. Dear news reporters, it's not rabies. Can I say that enough times? So what do they do to, well, what does that word mean? That's a death sentence. Oh, your dog might have rabies. Bang! The way you test for rabies is not through a serum test. They cut the skull open. Yeah, they kill the animal. Rabies is euphemism for let's kill some more squirrels in the area or kill dogs in the area. Now, the reason I'm comparing to dogs and cats is dogs carry rabies at an insanely high rate compared to squirrels. Because there are 4, now maybe 5, as of last year, confirmed cases of squirrels being able to have rabies long enough to transfer it in 1 century. Now, I'm going to repeat that. Over a period of a century, once every 20 years or so, someone gets bit by a squirrel and gets confirmed as having rabies and has to get the rabies shots. No, it's not a bunch of intramuscular injections. You can just get rabies shots and you'll be fine. It's a couple of them, and they're not that bad. You just don't die from it. If it's not caught early, you can die. Or you get a rabies vaccine because you're around every animal you come across. It's a cat or a dog. They can, well, at least dogs, they can carry rabies pretty easily. That's why we vaccinate them. And if you don't, you're an idiot. Because they can carry rabies, and it's exactly what you think it is. So I'm going to tell everybody, I'm giving people some instructions here. In this video below, I'm going to give some quick QRG, quick reference guide versions of what to look up. Squirreltales.org is a complete step-by-step listing of what to do. Unless you try really hard, you won't have any trouble finding it. You really have to work hard not to find the correct answer. The other one is mary.cc.squirrels/reunite. It's Mary Cummings' website, and she tells you how to take care of them and how to return them to the wild. Also including how to wild one up if you've made the mistake of raising it wrong, and or how to keep one if it's a keeper. 1 in 1,000, actually 1 in like a million, but 1 in let's say 1,000 or 10,000 squirrels are amenable to being domesticated. There are several YouTube channels that have them, but they're still a wild animal. They behave that way. They tear up everything. They chew on everything. Don't keep one as a pet. After 6 months of age, they really wild up, really hardcore. And if they do not know how to behave in the wild, they'll either die from it, or they'll become a nuisance, or they'll get accused of being rabid. Okay, now how to deal with this. This is the instructions for cops. There's a video on the net of a cop macing a baby squirrel that was looking for someone to take care of it. It was an orphan. About the biggest mistake on earth you can do is macing a baby. Now think about this. A child running to you, help me, I need help. Mace. Okay, well, the baby squirrel, it's from that perspective, it's the same thing. What do you do about a really tiny baby squirrel with a skinny tail instead of big poofy tail running to you? Nothing. It basically needs help. They don't do that unless they can't find their mother for more than 24 hours. If it isn't squeaking for mama, saying help me, I want my mama, mama's been gone for 24 hours. Dead or just not able to find it. Next, if it is still making squeaking noises and it's in the area, get it warmed up because a mama squirrel won't collect the baby squirrel if it's cold. Put it in a temporary nest. I'm going to leave the instructions below. You can go look it up. And just simply get it back to its mother. If it doesn't get back to its mother before nightfall, take it in for the day. Take it in for the night. Rehydrate it. You're going to have to look up how to do that. Keep it warm. Don't leave it outside. Don't give it to your cat or dog to play with. And don't give it to any child that won't respect the words no. And also that goes double for any grown-ups that won't respect the word no. That includes your very omnipotent older relative that thinks they know what they're doing and starts whipping out stuff that doesn't work. Learn first, then do. If you see a squirrel in the neighborhood that's a grown-up squirrel, and it's behaving like it can't move or it keeps falling down, that's a neurological problem brought on from a lack of calcium. Take a fruit-flavored Tums, grind it up in a powder, put it in water, and offer it to it, because it probably won't run away from you, and let it drink the Tums. Drink calcium-enriched water. It'll be fine. Don't feed it anything else. Just get it some calcium. 90% of the time they're fine within 24 hours, trust me. By the way, probable update. Teddy bear squirrel from last month, I haven't seen him, but I've seen his nest. It's packed full of food. Everything I've been leaving out, he's been stuffing in there. So apparently he's fine. He's just being really cagey now. So it is the one that was being cagey the month before. But anyway, no, he's not so cagey. Now getting back to what to do about the one in Florida. If you're a police officer, guns don't open beer bottles as much as you might think they do. Put the gun away. Put the mace away. Put on a thick coat. Stop acting like a badass and then being terrified of baby squirrels and macing them. What is it with Florida? Or whatever. Next. If it's running up to old ladies and old men, jumping on their lap and going like this, feed me, I love you, it was probably raised by an older lady or an older man in the area. Not that I know anything about that. All you have to do is send an older police officer there, out of uniform if you want, or just wearing a coat, to let it crawl on them, and it's really not hard to catch a squirrel that wants you to take care of it. They'll get right in the cage if you put food in it. They don't care. They're used to humans. And then get it to a wildlife rehabilitator, not the SPCA or any other group that's a charity. All charities that are recognized by federal and state regulations are required to kill any animal that isn't native to the area. Unless it's a squirrel that was there, 300 years ago, that type, they'll kill it. Wildlife rehabilitators, however, have an exemption. They're not required to kill every blasted animal just because everybody's an idiot about this. I'm just doing this in response to this Dalton, Florida, or whatever it is, incident. Next. Another little pro tip. If you feed squirrels and then they start following you around, that's what caused it. You don't have to feed them. You can leave out really healthy treats or supplements, and I'm going to tell you how to do that. Green leafy vegetables are what they really need because it contains usually the right balance. But look up the list I'm going to give you to give you a better idea. Next, stop putting out peanuts. Just stop doing it. Stop putting out nuts of any kind. They use those as emergency food because they're high calorie, somewhat good nutrition. The next thing is leave out antlers, cuttle bones, or just animal soup bones or whatever for them to chew on. They'll chew on the bones. That gives them calcium and they don't get sick. If you really want this not to happen again, pass laws in your state that allow people to bring the animals to a shelter and have the shelter instructed to stop killing animals so people don't feel compelled to take care of them themselves. There is no non-squirrel season except dead in the dead of winter for this happening. All during summer, spring, and fall and spring, summer, they're being born or needing help or whatever. And we're the reason they're impinged on to where they can't take care of themselves sometimes. Where I am when I sleep at night is an area where it's a normal natural conditions, and I get to see the bad and the good of all of that. Some of you get to see it if you're near a forest as well. But I'm sorry, but the news people, they need to stop doing this. Just stop. This is a rule. If a news reporter mentions rabies, fire them. They don't know what they're talking about. They're ignorant putzes. Just fire them. You can get another reporter anywhere and say, see this guy? That's why we fired him. Don't do that. They'll never do it again. Because rabies elicits a negative reaction in everybody, and they want to go out and have a squirrel hunt. Oh, we'll get them rabid squirrels. But anyway, thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with it.